Angenieux have been creating motion picture lenses for over 80 years and have been at the forefront of shaping the look of cinema, as well as pushing the boundaries of optical design with their unique and beautiful zoom lenses. And zoom lenses are what they've been known for over this period, with legendary lenses such as the 17-68 f2.2, 35-140 f3.5, 12-120mm t2.2, 25-250 f3.2, Optimo 24-290 t2.8, the 28-76 t2.6, as well as so many more. However, back in May 2019, Angenieux announced the development of the Optimo Primes series of lenses. Angenieux have made prime lenses in the past, but this modern set of primes is their first time they've produced a full set of motion picture prime lenses. With large adoption of full-frame cinema cameras, it makes sense for them to introduce a set of lenses that can comfortably be used with their Optimo series of zooms, which have been incredibly popular since their introduction in the early 2000s. But cinema primes with large coverage are now pretty standard in the cinema market. So what makes the Optimo Primes so interesting, and most importantly, what kind of image can they produce? Well, let's take a look. There are currently 12 lenses in the set, consisting of 18, 21, 24, 28, 32, 40, 50, 60, 75, 100, 135 and 200mm, all of which are T1.8, apart from the 18, which is T2, and the 200, which is T2.2. The first set of 21, 28, 40, 50, 75 and 135 started shipping late last year, followed by the 18, 32 and 100mm in Q1 of 2021, and the last three lenses, the 24, 60 and 200, will be shipping in 2021 Q2. We don't have a full setting to look at today, but we do have a good portion of them to have a look at. Angenieux have partnered with IBE Optics with the design and manufacturing of the Optimo Primes, and they have done a fantastic job with them. The lenses are decently compact, with the 24 to 100mm measuring in at 128mm in length from the PL mount. The 21 and the 135 are 140mm, the 18mm is a little longer at 160mm, and the 200mm longer still at 190mm. Luckily, positioning of the industry standard 0.8 pitch, focus and iris gears are consistent throughout the whole set though. This combined with each lens featuring a 95mm front diameter apart from the 200, which is 114, and a set of very consistent weights across the set, will make lens swaps while on set much faster no matter how you have your camera configured. Currently the mount can be swapped between both PL and LPL, and both Cooke I and ARRI LDS lens metadata are supported. The lenses have been designed with both Super 35 and large format acquisition in mind. With a 46.3mm image circle, the lenses will cover Red Monstro, Sony Venice and Alexa LF cameras no trouble at all. However, the illumination circle of the Optimo Prime lenses will also cover the Alexa 65 in its 5K crop mode. As is pretty normal with lenses, light coverage across the frame is better as you stop down, and is better again towards the longer focal lengths in the set. We photographed them for our lens tool, so if you want to see how they will cover the format you want to shoot, head over to our tool via the link in the description below. Angenieux have put a big focus on the ability for DPs to customize the look of the Optimo Primes by using Angenieux's new Integrated Optical Palette, or IOP for short. The IOP lens customization system allows 3 different things to be changed with the lens, and this includes an interchangeable internal optical element, variable iris blade sub-assemblies, and a rear filter design. Angenieux will be releasing a website that will show the different effects possible with the different internal options and iris blade units. Though these lenses have been designed to be easily customizable, it still will require a lens technician in a dust-free environment to take apart. The tooling needed to do this isn't standard, and Angenieux have created a tool set for this that is an optional extra when purchasing the lenses. The process of getting to the iris and internal filter module is easy enough, and any technician with some experience in taking lenses apart will be able to get down to the IOP in roughly 15 to 20 minutes. This will mean rental houses can easily facilitate the testing needed to customize the internal element without it taking days. And this is good, as taking these lenses apart on location is not a good idea due to the risk of dust and debris getting inside the lens mechanics. The first part that you can customize is an internal filter inside of the lens. These come with clear filters as standard, but Tiffin will be making extra clear units so people can experiment with customizing them to get different looks. Angenieux already has a couple that they sent over to us to take a look at, which consisted of a blue streak and uncoated filter. However, we also managed to experiment with a few of the clear filters from Tiffin to see how doing different things to these internal filters can change your image, which we'll take a look at a bit later on. I'm intrigued to see if Tiffin or any other brands make different filters to sit inside the lenses using their existing filter design, like they have with their blue streak internal element here. Angenieux will also be creating a range of their own branded elements. As these aren't filters but elements, it means that some will have curvature, which will change the air gaps and field curvature of the lenses, which is an interesting thought. Up next, we have the iris module. This can be swapped out to change the shape or the mount of the iris blades that you want to use, and in turn change the look of your bokeh. The lenses come with a 9-blade iris as standard, but Angenieux will be offering a range of other iris blade modules. Currently available, there is a 3-blade iris of vintage style triangular bokeh, a 6-blade, an oval iris for faking anamorphic, and a round iris. We had the 3-bladed iris in our 32mm, and it really does give you what Angenieux said, triangular bokeh. It's good to have the option, but I find the shape of this iris a touch sharp. I would have preferred a more triangular shape like a B-speed than this. At the back of the lens, there is a rear block that can be switched. On focal lengths from 15mm onwards, you'll have the choice to switch between a full frame block and a Super 35 block. The difference between them is corner performance improvements when using the Optimos on larger formats. These are easily changed by removing this silver ring and then pulling out the block. At the back of these blocks, there are also filters that can be removed. The Super 35 block and full frame block have slightly different diameters for these filters. The Super 35 is 40.5mm and the full frame block is 46mm. These use regular filter style threads, so don't over tighten them as they can become very difficult to get off. This comes as clear as standard, but Tiffin will be creating a range of filters to use here. They sent us 3 early versions, one black pro mist, a glimmer glass and a black satin. Diffusion filters are really popular, and having the option to put a filter at the back of the lens will be handy if you don't want or can't use a matte box on the front of your camera package. Using these rear filters could result in some interesting looks when combined with the internal element swap and iris. Honestly, we could have spent days messing with these lenses and testing different combinations, and I think this is something that DPs will end up doing. Honestly, I think we could end up seeing DPs own their own specific customization for these lenses that they know and like the look of, and then when they rent the Optimo Primes from a rental, they can have their customization applied and know that the lenses have the exact custom look that they like. These red squares are used to denote what internal or rear custom filter is installed and what iris. This is so you can easily tell what a lens has inside of it when testing or pulling a lens out of a case on set. We were lucky enough to be involved with a short piece that Angenieux and Polar Media put together to display at Cannes to advertise the lenses. We've managed to capture some behind the scenes for this, and we should be creating an on-set video shortly, so make sure you subscribe for that. We also managed to do some testing with them when it came to customizing the IOP. For this, we focus on customizing the internal element. As you mentioned earlier, Tiffin make these and they come clear and ready to be customized. Joe from Polar Media came prepared with a range of different things to use, and we also came up with a few ideas ourselves on the spot. After a few hours of testing, we ended up with a few different looks and learnt a few things. Huge thanks to our lens engineer Gary and tech consultant Sam, who spent this time with us swapping these in and out of lenses. Getting in the groove of putting these lenses apart meant on average the swaps took around 15 to 20 minutes. We ended up testing several different elements using a mix of things. Some worked, some really didn't. We tried to crack an element, keeping it in place with some sellotape, and this actually worked really well, and the flares from this look really wacky. However, it seems like the sellotape has reduced the sharpness quite a bit. We then tried to dial it back a little bit by scratching the element. For this, we used a mix of tools, and the end result is quite cool. It lowers contrast massively and does wacky things to the flare. We also tried applying things to the element, so for this we had some paint markers, some glue, some crushed silicone, and some metallic pens. The more solid the substance being applied, the less it does, and the more obvious it is in the bokeh. The yellow paint actually gave it a really low contrast hazy look, like a really heavy diffusion filter. A lot of these filters with this customization applied made it very hard to hit sharps, especially after looking at the lenses in their standard configuration. We also had a blue streak filter from Tiffin, as well as one our lens engineer Gary tried to make using paint. However, it didn't work as well as the one from Tiffin. I think if you want to make one yourself, fishing wire would probably be better here. Also, when installing the blue streak, make sure it is in the correct orientation and be careful when trying to get it perfectly orientated, as this can be fiddly. The only drawback I can see with this internal element system is the time and process needed to change them. This won't be something you can do while on set, and this means that you'll have to lock down what internal element you want to use in testing, and then you are locking that lens into whatever specific custom look you decide on. This may be alright, but it's worth considering if you're looking to rent a set of these lenses. Anyway, let's get into some testing. As we normally do with our lens tests, we took the time to shoot a range of scenarios to showcase different attributes of the lens's performance. For these shots, we used an Arri Alexa LF, and let's start off looking at some bokeh. Bokeh is really subjective. I think the lenses do a really nice job of rendering out of focus elements, and we can see that a lot of these lenses suffer from cat's eye towards the corners of the frame, which isn't uncommon with full frame lenses. Across the set, the lenses have pretty defined outlines to the bokeh, and we can see a touch of colour on our tests here. But this is pretty minimal across the set and is reduced when you stop down. If we look closely across the focal range set, we can see that every focal length features some amount of onion skinning as well. This is caused when aspheric lenses are used, as the grinding process often causes this kind of texture in the bokeh. This may or may not be to people's preference, but it's good that it's consistent across the lens set, apart from the 135mm, which still has some texture to it, but it's not quite as uniform as the rest of the set. With every lens, as you stop down, you can start to see the 9-bladed iris form the shape. The shapes are nice, as it's not too hard of a shape due to the rounded blades used in the iris construction, but it's that classic 9-blade Angenieux look. Flare is probably even more subjective in the cinema world than bokeh, so let's take a quick look at how they look with the stock Angenieux Optimo Primes. As we walk through each prime, they are overall really well controlled. However, I would say as you get towards the longer focal lengths, the flare does become stronger, with the 135mm flare being quite extreme. There's also rainbow flaring across some of the lenses, which is quite trendy at the moment. Overall, the Optimo Primes perform really well when it comes to distortion. The wider focal lengths have a touch of barrel distortion, but considering these are wide-angle full-frame primes, this is not surprising, and the performance is good. Past the 40mm mark, distortion is very good, with a very slight pincushion creeping in towards the longer focal length lenses. But like I said, overall, this performance is pretty damn good for a set of full-frame primes. When it comes to breathing, the Optimo Primes do feature a decent amount of it. Looking at the way they perform across the set, they are really consistent. Each focal length has quite a bit of shift, with the 135mm looking the worst, and the middle focal lengths looking the best. This again is a character of optical design, so it will be a personal choice, but personally, I would have preferred if the lenses had slightly better performance here. For testing the lens's resolving power, we shot some frames of our test chart for you to look at. We also put them onto our projector, which is better for us to observe the lens's resolving power. This makes it great for us as we can compare the Optimo Primes to other lenses that we have previously projected on this setup. When it comes to the performance, we can examine here. The Optimo Primes perform really well when it comes to their resolving power. In the center, every single lens can render extremely well even wide open. However, most of the focal lengths in the set do fall off towards the corners of their image circle, and even more so past that. They perform well, but not exceptionally well in the corners, like lenses such as Arri Signature Primes or the Lights Primes do. However, when we step the lenses down to T2.8, a lot of them do bite up, with resolving power increasing and overall aberration being reduced. I would say the mid and longer focal lengths are better at 2.8 than the wides. However, at T4, every focal length performs well in the corners, with some having more aberration than others. But overall, resolving power is good at this point in the corners. Our 75 and 135 had some slight ghosting, but this could be something a strip and reassembly could fix. Overall, as a set, they resolve excellently, and when we look at the footage on camera, people look great, and it's a nice starting point for people wanting some bite to their lenses, with the option to add diffusion to soften things up a bit if they want to. Chromatic aberration performance across the lenses is fantastic across the board, even wide open. In our tests here, you can see there is a touch of CA, but this performance is excellent comparatively to other lenses I have tested. They also match really well, so if you are using the full set of focal lengths across a production, you won't have to worry about the CA changing too much across the different lenses. During the production of this video, Angenieux have also announced their two new full-frame Optimo compact zooms. This will consist of two lenses, a 37-102mm t2.9 and a 21-56mm t2.9. We haven't seen these lenses in person yet, but this now means with these that Angenieux will have a massive range of full-frame lenses to choose from for your production. Angenieux hasn't disappointed with the Optimo Primes. The standard lenses are stunning and really can produce some gorgeous imagery. The unique customization options give DPs looking to dial in their own personal look several parameters to play with. The only customization missing would be the ability to change the front element, which will result in different flares than what is possible with the current IOP options. Let us know what you think of the Angenieux Optimo Primes down in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching.